The shocking ambush attack on firefighters in northwest Idaho.
2 firefighters were killed.
Shock after 2 firefighters were shot dead after responding to a mountain blaze.
Idaho authorities have identified the shooter accused of ambushing and killing those 2 firefighters in the mountains by Coeur on Sunday.
The Great Chronicles. It started with a routine call. A thin column of smoke rising over Canfield Mountain. Orange flames licking at dry grass and pines. But as the fire engines climbed the hillside, someone was already watching from the trees. Therefore, when the crew stepped out to fight the flames, the plan had already begun. A finger tightened around a trigger. A rifle settled into a cold, deliberate aim. Why would anyone turn a fire into a trap? Who was this hidden predator? And what darkness could make a person wait for firefighters instead of running from the flames? Stay with me, because you're about to hear a story of obsession, a truth that stunned even veteran investigators. When you learn who the sniper really was, how young he turned out to be, and why he believed this was his destiny, you might feel a chill you won't soon forget. Could this happen in your town? How do you ever see it coming? This is the true story of the day firefighters walked straight into an ambush, and the moment their routine call became a fight for survival. It was early on the morning of June 29, 2025. Dispatch radio crackled to life in Coeur d'Alene. Reports came in, a small brush fire smoldering on Canfield Mountain. For the firefighters of the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department, this was the kind of call they'd answered 100 times before. A routine summer wildfire, likely sparked by the dry heat. Nothing unusual, nothing urgent. Engines roared to life. Sirens rose in the morning air as crews suited up and rolled out. The tension was low, the anticipation ordinary. But just beyond the tree line, something was already out of place. A detail too subtle for anyone to notice. At 9:15 a.m., the trucks began their climb up the narrow mountain road. The smoke hung thin and white. The flames were small, flickering harmlessly against the green hillside. Neighbors later said the fire looked almost staged, like it was waiting for something. But at that moment, no one suspected a trap. Therefore, when the firefighters stepped off their rigs, they believed they were walking into another controlled incident. They didn't know they were stepping into a plan. A plan set not by nature, but by a man hidden in the timber, rifle resting steady against his shoulder, breath slow, finger ready. What made this fire different? Why did it burn so quietly in plain sight? And how did a call meant to save lives become the start of a nightmare? What happened next was unthinkable, a moment that would scar this community for years to come. They had barely set foot on the mountain road when it happened. A single sharp crack, like thunder ripping the sky open. Confusion detonated instantly. Was that a backfire, a falling tree? No, something worse. Then came the second shot. And the third. No longer a question. This was gunfire. Bullets sliced through the air, shattering windshields, ripping through truck doors, sending firefighters diving for cover. Engines screeched to a stop. Boots slammed into gravel. Shouts rang out over the chaos. Where's it coming from? Is anyone hit? Radios crackled with panic.
Law enforcement, right now there's an active shooter zone. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here.
The fire was suddenly irrelevant. This was an ambush. Therefore, the mission changed, from saving lives to desperately preserving their own. Sirens rose louder as law enforcement raced toward the gunfire. Who would target first responders? Who plans a fire just to lure in the ones who come to help? And, most terrifying of all, was this just the beginning? Next, we begin to uncover the man behind the rifle, and the twisted plan that started long before the flames. As investigators searched for answers, attention turned to the man behind the rifle. A name almost no one outside Coeur d'Alene had ever heard. Wes Rowley. Just 20 years old. Rowley looked like any other young man. But behind that ordinary face was something far darker. What could drive someone so young to plan an ambush this brutal? Where did the hatred begin? Friends and classmates called him quiet, even polite at times. But beneath the silence, He carried a growing obsession. Former classmates remembered the symbols, swastikas scrawled on notebooks, racist slurs muttered under his breath, a fascination with extremist ideology that no one challenged. Neighbors recalled how he kept to himself, a loner who rarely made eye contact, sometimes overheard ranting about hate and violence. Therefore, when the truth finally came out, some wondered if the warning signs had been there all along. No intervention, no one sounding the alarm, just silence until it was too late. Mental health experts would later say that Rowley's isolation, fed by extremist propaganda, became a storm waiting to erupt. How does a young man become consumed by such hatred? What fuels the belief that violence is the answer? And why target firefighters, the very people sworn to save lives? What you'll see next is chilling evidence. This attack wasn't random. The fire itself may have been the bait all along. As investigators climbed the hillside, a chilling theory began to take shape. The fire on Canfield Mountain hadn't started by accident. It was bait, a deadly lure designed to draw them in. Detectives soon found proof. Wes Rowley had set the blaze himself, choosing a spot that guaranteed firefighters would respond fast. But why here? Why this quiet slope overlooking Coeur d'Alene? Because from here, he had the perfect vantage point, a clear line of fire to anyone who approached. Investigators found spent shell casings and a high-powered rifle hidden nearby. They believe Rowley climbed into a tree, watching through the scope, waiting for his targets to arrive. This wasn't a sudden outburst. Therefore, it was a calculated plan, a trap designed with chilling precision. But what kind of person sets a fire? Not to burn homes or forests, but to hunt the very people sworn to protect them. In the days that followed, investigators learned more. Rowley had stockpiled ammunition, studied first responder tactics, and rehearsed exactly how he would strike. Was this driven by pure hatred, or the twisted need to make a statement no one could ignore? Next, we'll follow the tactical teams as they searched the mountain for a gunman who seemed to vanish into the trees. The siege stretched deep into the morning. Tactical teams, clad in body armor, fanned out across Canfield Mountain, searching every steep slope, every shadowed hollow. Every thicket could hide the sniper, who had already taken so many lives. Commanders turned to technology for answers. Using cell phone data, they narrowed the search to a dense stand of trees near the fire line. Tactical teams moved cautiously, weapons trained on the underbrush, ears straining for any sound of movement. But the forest held its silence. No shots, no voices, only smoke curling from the ridge below. Then, finally, they found him. Wes Rowley lay dead beside his rifle, a self-inflicted wound ending the nightmare he had unleashed. He had not fled. He had not planned escape. In the end, he chose to die alone among the pines. After hours of terror, the final shot was his own. But even in death, the questions he left behind would haunt the community for years to come. Now we turn away from the gunman to honor the brave men whose lives were stolen that day. The firefighters who never came home. When the final shot echoed across Canfield Mountain, the true cost of that morning became heartbreakingly clear. 2 firefighters had given everything. Their names would soon be spoken with reverence in every fire station across Idaho. Frank Harwood. He was 42, a husband, a father of 2, and a combat engineer veteran with the Army National Guard. 17 years with Kootenai County Fire and Rescue. Respected, trusted, a leader who inspired by example. John Morrison. He was 52, a battalion chief with Coeur d'Alene Fire Department. 28 years climbing the ranks, from firefighter to leader. A colleague remembered sharing cigars with John on a rare quiet night shift, talking about how to be better fathers, better men. Dave Tisdall survived, but just barely. 47 years old, an engineer with the department for 23 years. 2 surgeries later, He fights to recover, surrounded by family and prayers. They were more than firefighters. They were fathers, husbands, friends, mentors. How does a community begin to heal when so much light is stolen in a single morning? As we continue, we'll see how this tragedy shook communities far beyond Idaho, sparking urgent calls for change and a renewed focus on protecting those who protect us all. The ambush on Canfield Mountain shocked Idaho, but it shook the entire nation. 2 brave firefighters lost their lives, and a third fought to survive. The trauma spread far beyond that mountain. Communities everywhere were left wondering, how could something like this happen? And how do we stop it from happening again? Calls for change rose up. Lawmakers pushed for stronger protections. First responders demanded better safety measures, and advocates urged more attention to extremist threats. But change is hard, and progress is often slow. This tragedy didn't just remind us of fire's danger. It revealed a darker threat lurking beneath. The twisted need not to burn homes, but to hunt those who protect them. Idaho mourned, but across the country, vigils were held, prayers whispered, and a renewed vow was made. We will protect those who run toward danger, no matter the cost. This attack left scars that won't soon heal, but it also sparked vital conversations about vigilance, about safety, and about never forgetting the sacrifices made. So remember those who gave everything that day, and ask yourself, what can I do to honor their sacrifice? Thank you for joining the Great Chronicles. Subscribe now to explore the truths that rarely see the light of day.